Hello, I'm Father James Gardiner, and I'm in the Friars Chapel here at the Franciscan Monastery of the Holy Land in Washington, D.C. I'm standing by this window that depicts the Last Supper, where Jesus instituted the sacrament of his body and blood. We're approaching the Feast of Corpus Christi on Sunday, June 10th. It's technically the Feast of the Body and Blood of the Lord. And for some of us, it may seem like Corpus Christi is Holy Thursday. It's like deja vu all over again, because we have the same reading, so to speak. On Holy Thursday, it's the beginning of our Lord's Passion, and our celebration of our Lord's Passion. Our attention is directed towards the impending events in our Lord's life, the trial, the crucifixion, the death, and ultimately the resurrection. And somehow, on Holy Thursday, the institution of the Eucharist almost gets lost. Because we're celebrating institution of the priesthood, and we're celebrating institution of the Eucharist, and we're celebrating what's called the Mandatum Novum, the new commandment. I give you a new commandment, the Lord said, love one another as I have loved you. So along around the 13th century, the Church decided to institute a special feast, the body and blood of Christ, to kind of focus on what we believe about the Eucharist. If you read John's Gospel, Chapter 6, St. John says over and over again, or he has Jesus say over and over again, that my blood is real drink, my flesh is real food. In other words, real presence. The earliest, though, testament from the witnesses in the early days of the church comes from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, where Paul, in that letter, chapter 11, says, I received from the Lord what I handed on to you, namely, on the night before he was betrayed, he took bread, he took wine, he said, this is my body, this is my blood. In other words, real presence. So this special feast, Corpus Christi, we celebrate the real presence of Jesus Christ among us, ostensibly and first of all and primarily in the elements of the Eucharist, the consecrated bread and the consecrated wine, in which we are able to take the very life of Jesus Christ, the resurrected Lord, into our own bodies and as food for our own journey. That's one part of real presence. We are challenged, though, by celebrating this, not to limit real presence to bread and wine, consecrated though they are. What we are challenged to do is to somehow ourselves be a real presence of Christ in the world. By the way we organize our lives, by the way we organize our priorities, by the things we do day in and day out. Our forebears in the faith, they had this down. It was said of them, look at those Christians, look how they love one another. That's what we need to do as we celebrate this feast of the body and blood of Christ. Love one another in such a way that we stand out from the crowd. Shouldn't be that hard these days, so we ought to try it. Come celebrate the feast of the body and blood of the Lord, either with us here at the monastery or at your own parish church, and give thanks for Christ's real abiding presence among us, in word, in sacrament, and in the assembly of God's people.